So 4 years ago today, on September 21st of 2019, I made the decision to hire my first manifestation coach. At that time, I had $200 in my bank account, no clue how I was going to pay rent the upcoming month, but I made the decision to swipe my credit card, pay in full, max it out, but make the most pivotal decision of my entire life. Especially now, looking back 4 years later, I can tell you in hindsight, this is the decision that changed my life forever and has allowed me to create and manifest the life of my dreams since. So on today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, I'm going to be sharing my story with you of how I got to where I am today, living my happiest, healthiest, wealthiest life, and how intentional manifestation has been the tool that I have used to get to this place. So if you've ever been curious about what my story is or how I actually made all of this happen for myself over the past 4 years, this is definitely the podcast episode for you. And if you have been on the journey with me, but you want to take it back from rock bottom to living my best life, definitely stick with me because this podcast episode is going to be packed with so many bits of wisdom for you. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, professional, and spiritual growth journey. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation and money mindset expert, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. Oh my gosh, guys. I honestly cannot believe that it's only 4 years ago that I made this decision to hire my first manifestation coach and really get intentional with this manifestation journey, because it honestly feels like a different lifetime. Who I am today and the life that I've created is so vastly different than who I was when I first started this journey. And oftentimes it's almost hard for me to remember what it was like for me back then, because everything is different, from my mental state to my emotional state to my physical state to my financial state to my spiritual state to my actual location. Like, everything has changed, and I owe it all to the power of intentional manifestation. So like I mentioned in the intro, today we're going to be talking about my story of how I got from my rock bottom moment back in 2019 and a little bit before that, because in order for you to get a full picture of my story, we need to go back further than that. But in addition to that, we're going to be talking about how I got to where I am today and what you can do to use intentional manifestation to create the life of your dreams. So kicking this off, we got to take it way back. And when I say way back, I mean childhood. Because for all of us, our manifestation journeys actually are formed for us during childhood, because this is when the subconscious mind is formed. And so for anybody who's completely new to this topic or unaware of what I'm talking about, during the ages of 0 to 7, our subconscious minds are formed. And this is important because the subconscious mind makes up 95% of the human brain. So between the ages 0 to 7, your parents, primary caregivers, friends, teachers, media, society, etc., form the beliefs that you not only have about the world, but also the beliefs that you have about yourself. And those are then the things that you continue to manifest into your life over and over again, whether you are aware of it or not, until you take an intentional look at what those beliefs are. And if those beliefs aren't serving you, then doing the work to release those limiting beliefs and create new neural pathways inside of the subconscious mind that will allow you to then naturally live and exist in a more supportive belief system. So for me, growing up, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of alcohol abuse. My dad had a very challenging relationship with alcohol, and my mom was not a citizen of the United States. So in order to stay in the US and raise me and my brother, she tolerated a lot of toxic things, and the dynamic between them was just really challenging growing up. So this led me in my environment to feel unsafe a lot of the time. And one disclaimer I want to put on this is that I know for so many of us, our parents aren't conscious of this. They're doing the best that they can with the information that they were given. So when I'm talking about my parents and their experience and what I experienced growing up, they never meant to make a challenging or toxic environment growing up. They were doing the best they could with the information that they had, but they're humans just like all of us are. So whether you are a parent and you worry about this for yourself and your kids in your life, or you have experienced this with your parents and your family growing up and it feels as though you've put that blame on them, being able to reclaim your energy and come back into a position of power requires you to really see that it was never their intention to hurt you. And even if they said or did hurtful things, it was them projecting that internal lack or internal disconnection, lack of safety, fear, whatever it could have been, onto you. And so coming back to this place of, again, really recognizing everybody's doing the best with the information that they have. And so for my experience growing up, my parents didn't mean to create that really unsafe, toxic environment a lot of the time, but that is how I felt. And because I felt that way, this manifestation of lack of safety inside of my environment and inside of my body led me to gaining a lot of weight at an early age. So as a kid, I was technically considered obese based off of the different scales and standards that we have here in the US. And I was bullied. I was bullied very, very intensely, especially by my brother's friends and guys at school, but also by some of my friends and some of the girls that I went to school with. And because I was always being bullied for the way that I looked, I felt like I was inherently flawed. I felt like there's something so wrong with me because just being who I was a target for people to say nasty things and do nasty things to me. And so with this perception of self that I developed at a really young age, I then was always trying to escape from my body and from myself, whether this be with diving into as many sports as I possibly could, diving into school as deeply as I possibly could, completely disconnecting myself from my truth in my friend groups and kind of molding in to be what they didn't necessarily want me to be, but what I thought they wanted me to be. And then as I got older into my teenage years, I reached the first position of hopelessness that I had ever experienced in my life. I should have said this earlier on in the podcast episode, but for anyone who's listening right now, as a trigger warning, we are going to be talking about suicide and suicidal ideation in this podcast episode. So if that is a topic that is triggering to you, this is not the podcast episode for you, and feel free to go find another one that is more supportive to you. But with that being said, at the age of 16, when I was a sophomore in high school, I hit my first period of hopelessness. And in this period of hopelessness, I had my first suicidal thoughts. And this scared the shit out of me because my entire life I had put on this brave face, put on this mask, even describe myself as a pillar of strength. It's so interesting going back and like reading the different essays or pieces that I made for school at the time, because I always described myself as this pillar of strength who needed to be strong for the family and for all of the shit that was going on in our lives. But underneath the surface, there was this deep, deep sadness. And that sadness, all of the repressed emotion, all of the repressed trauma that I had never dealt with came bubbling up to the surface. I couldn't push it down any further, and I couldn't push it down any longer. And so I was introduced to therapy for the first time. And while therapy was very helpful to manage the symptoms that I was experiencing, aka give me mindfulness techniques, take me out of that doom thinking and bring me back to the present moment, what therapy didn't do for me was help me get to the core of the issue in the first place. It didn't help me get to the root of why I was experiencing suicidal thoughts in the first place. And so it worked for a short period of time. But then as I got into my later teen years and my early 20s, I was consistently, almost every single year, experiencing suicidal thoughts for a period of time. And I always was trying to find a way to, in some sort of way, numb it out. So as I graduated from high school and got into my early teen years, all I did was essentially work and party my ass off. And I would drink and do drugs and hang out with as many guys as I possibly could and do anything to escape how I felt inside of my life and inside of my physical body. And while this worked for a short period of time and it was fun for a short period of time, it wasn't long lasting or sustainable. And these behaviors also led me to the place where I ended up failing out of my second semester of college and therefore dropping out of college and heading into the food and beverage industry, which I thought was my only option as somebody who didn't have a college degree. And for anybody who's listening who is in the food and beverage industry, I take my hat off to you. I think it is an incredibly hard job and such a cool industry. If it's something that you love, amazing. If it's something that you don't feel fulfilled in, also know that there's a different route for you. And that's part of my story and what we're going to be talking about in this podcast episode. But with that being said, I was in the food and beverage industry for years, and I always would find a way to work my way up from the bottom to the very top position in whatever role that it was or whatever restaurant that I was working for. And this was another way for me to escape, was just pouring myself into work and then when I wasn't working, drinking, partying my ass off. And in early 2018, I, for the first time, was like, okay, maybe what I'm doing here isn't working. So I decided to invest $30,000 that I didn't have into an immersive coding program because I thought that if I got a stable tech job with a salary and 2 weeks paid vacation and benefits and all of those things, all of this discomfort and unease inside of my body and inside of my brain would finally be put to rest. Did that, applied to hundreds of jobs, didn't get any of them, ended back working in restaurants and found myself back at what felt like square one. And then, because at that time I didn't understand that change needed to come from an internal place before external things would change, I decided to pick up my entire life and move across state lines for the first time. So I packed up my shit from Colorado and I moved to Boise, Idaho, and I started what I felt like would be my new chapter, blank canvas to draw on, and have this new life. Little did I know that all of those underlying experiences, all of the repressed trauma, all of the repressed emotions, all of the issues that I had been trying to run away from would follow me there and catch up to me with so much more force because I wasn't in my old environment, didn't have the same comforts around me, couldn't escape in the same way that I used to. And so in June of 2019, I hit what I can now look back and say was my rock bottom moment, where I was $70,000+ in debt. I was a little over $70,000 in debt, working paycheck to paycheck in a job that I hated, working 60+ hours a week, and at complete rock bottom, hopelessness, feeling completely lost, felt like I didn't want to be alive or be here anymore. And I didn't really know what to do, so I just started praying. I didn't know if I believed in God. I didn't know if I believed in the universe. I didn't know if I believed in anything at that time, but I just started praying. I was like, something has to change. Something has to change in order for me to continue to be here and move forward. So if there is something out there, please make yourself abundantly obvious so that I can understand what it is that I need to do to move forward. And so on the morning of June 21st, 2019, I woke up on the floor of my apartment at the time, not remembering how I got there, not remembering much of the night before, but knowing that I partied so hard that I probably shouldn't have woken up and just felt so completely empty. But as I was laying there and kind of like orienting myself and figuring out what the fuck was going on, I felt this bright light, like this wave of energy rush through me. I got my ass up off the ground. I walked over to my bathroom mirror. I looked myself dead in the eyes and I said, Kat, you have the power to change your life. So why the fuck haven't you yet? And it was literally in that moment and on that day that I was reintroduced to intentional manifestation, because I had heard about manifestation when I was working in restaurants in Denver, but I thought that it was a bunch of bullshit. I thought it was a bunch of like, oh, well, if I sit and rub my crystals and like meditate and close my eyes and put on some vibey music, then everything that I want in my life will fall through the ceiling and into my lap. And I just wasn't buying into that, especially at that time, because I had such a victim mentality and victim mindset. So I always wrote off manifestation prior to this moment. But on that day, I was reintroduced to intentional manifestation through a podcast. And I decided to put on my hiking gear, get my hungover ass up, and hike up the hills that were just outside of where I was living. And I started to listen to so many different podcasts about manifestation. I just binged for the rest of the day about intentional manifestation. And when I was at the top of the, I like to call them hills, some people call them mountains. But coming from Colorado, anything that's not like a 14,000 foot mountain is not a mountain to me. So I was hiking up these hills and I got to the top and I looked out onto the city and I was like, okay, I am making the promise to myself that I am going to pour myself into this whole manifestation thing. I don't really get it. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do, but I feel as though this bright light inside of me, this intuitive feeling inside of me is telling me that this is what I am supposed to do. And so from that day moving forward, from June 21st moving forward, I started to absorb everything I possibly could about manifestation. I listened to so many different podcasts. I read all the books. I was doing all the meditations, the journaling, the scripting, so on and so forth. And things started to change for me. I started to feel very different. But I had this feeling that in order to actually completely change my life, that I needed to be supported by somebody else. And so I started to ask the universe, I started to talk to and build this connection with the universe. And I told the universe that I needed some more support. I needed some more guidance and to show me the path towards that guidance. And within a week, a manifestation coach like blew up my Instagram. She was liking all of my posts, liking all of the things that I had been putting out there, sent me a message and asked me if I needed support. And I was like, this is weird. So I decided to join her program, like I said, 4 years ago today. And it's the most pivotal decision that I have ever made, because then after learning all about intentional manifestation, being able to be supported by somebody who could see my blind spots that I couldn't see and implement everything into my life, within the next few months from that point, I just started to share my journey on my Instagram. I started to talk about it with friends, with family, and people were really interested in it because they could see how much I was struggling before that, and they could see how big of a difference this was making in my life. And so people started to reach out to me for support just on my Instagram, and I started to support them. And within a few months, I'd say, since I started the coaching, I got the intuitive pull of the fact that this was something that I could do as well. If I could see such incredible changes in my life in such a short amount of time, then I could help somebody who's in that same exact position or was in the past position that I was in prior to starting my intentional manifestation journey. So I then hired a business coach and decided that I needed somebody to support me within my business. Had no clue how to start a business and also didn't have the money to invest in a business coach. But I decided to invest $10,000 that I didn't have into business coaching, launched my business in January of 2020, and within the first 4 months hit my first 10K month, and I have only continued to grow and grow since then. And so I don't want to make this all about business because it's not all about business. But what I want to say is that for this first bit of the story, when you recognize that there are patterns, there are things that you're experiencing in your life that you just keep on running into, that you keep on experiencing, the reason that that is happening is because your soul is asking you to heal them. The universe is presenting you these different opportunities because that is the thing that your soul needs in order to get to the next level and continue to move forward. There's nobody or no thing that is going to save us or change us. We must do it ourselves. If you want a life greater than the one that you have right now, it starts with you claiming that for yourself. It starts with you recognizing that this is where you draw the line in the sand and you can't continue to experience the same old shit over and over again. And you make the decision for yourself that things get to be different moving forward, but then not only make the decision, you act in a way that things get to be different for you. Because in order for you to live a life that you've never had, you have to do things that you've never done. And for me, like I shared in my story, that meant that I had to ask for support. I never asked for support before that. I always felt like I needed to figure shit out on my own. And I was so scared of being vulnerable with other people because of what I experienced during my childhood. So I just closed the world out and suffered silently by myself without letting other people know. But in order for me to get to the other side of that, it required me to do the thing that I had never done, which was reach out for that support, gain that support, invest in myself, especially when it didn't make sense to do so. Like I said at the very beginning of this podcast episode, when I invested in my first manifestation coach, I had $200 in my bank account. $200 in my bank account, $70,000 in debt. Didn't know how I was going to pay rent that month, but my intuition was saying, this is what you need to do to get to your next level. And so I decided to do it anyways. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best decision that I've ever made in my entire life, because now, 4 years later, I'm in the position that I have manifested not only my dream business and not only hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I've also created complete freedom in my life. Complete freedom within my finances, yes, but also within my time. My time is mine to spend it how I want to spend it. If I want to go and be and travel and experience things, I get to go do that. If I want to just chill and relax and lay low, I get to do that. If I want to go experience all the fun and abundant things that there are in life, I get to do that because I've created the time freedom through intentional manifestation, as well as the locational freedom. I can be anywhere in the world. I can do what I'm doing from anywhere in the world. I get to see and experience the world, and that's always been one of the most important things to me. And most importantly, I've created the freedom within my mind and body. This is a freedom that I never thought that I was going to experience, especially when I was suicidal. I never thought that I would experience freedom inside of my mind, especially, but also inside of my body. I thought that I was always going to be trapped in the fear spirals and the doubts and the feeling of lack and not enough, and have that drive me into a very, very scary place. There were times that I never thought that I would be happy again and would fear that I would never be happy again. But now, through doing the inner work, through using intentional manifestation, I've created that complete freedom inside of myself. But the best thing in all of this is the fact that I've not only been able to help myself get to this place, but I've now been also able to help almost 400 women do the same in the past 4 years. And that's just through my coaching container. I know that there's also so many of you here on the No Bullshit Manifestation Show or who follow me over on Instagram that have created radical and massive changes in your life just from the message that I have to share. And none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for that one scary decision that I made back in 2019 when I decided to hire my first coach. And so since that point, what things have actually looked like for me and what has continued to be true is the fact that I have always invested in myself, whether that be through coaches, healers, upgrading my environment, upgrading my experiences, upgrading my friendships, the food that I put in my body, the way in which I treat myself. I have always continue to upgrade and invest in myself. Because when you are on an intentional manifestation journey, it's not just about manifesting that one thing and then calling it quits and not doing any of the things that you did to get to that place. The way that I like to see this is that it's a lifestyle change. You're actually changing your lifestyle, you're changing the beliefs, you're changing the habits, you're changing the behaviors behind things, because that's how you ensure long-lasting, sustainable change. There's no point in manifesting something if you are going to then crash and burn with it after the fact, or no longer try to keep up with or do the practices that got you there in the first place. I truly believe that the people who you see on Instagram or in the world or social media, wherever it may be, that you deem as the happiest, healthiest, wealthiest, most fulfilled versions of themselves are the people who see that what they want in life is not just working as hard as you possibly can to get to it and then stopping. It's the people who integrate these changes, these mindset shifts, these energetic shifts on a deep cellular level so that it just becomes the new normal. Because I can say to you, and this is a question that one of my clients actually asked me yesterday, which was, what do I do when I manifest? And it took me a moment because back when I first started my intentional manifestation journey, it looked completely different because I thought that I needed to constantly be journaling or meditating or visualizing or building vision boards or any of those things. And while yes, those are incredible tools, they're not actually the thing that is going to help you manifest what you want into your life. Whereas doing the deep subconscious reprogramming work is. Whereas doing the deep somatic healing work is what is going to help you. Where moving through and releasing past traumas, stagnant energy, emotion inside of your body, that is what is going to help you. Because when you do those things, you do the deep healing inner work, manifestation is no longer this mental game of what are you doing to manifest. It's more so manifesting what you want by being the embodiment of your desired outcome, by being the embodiment of the highest version of yourself, by being who you are to your core, the most authentic version of yourself, and manifesting what you want as a byproduct of that. I literally, when it comes to manifestation now, all that I do is I identify who I think I would be as the version of myself that has the thing that I want, and I be her. I become her. I do any of the work that is necessary to release doubts or fears that tell me that I am not her, but then I ultimately get to the place on the other side of doing the healing work where I do become her, and by becoming her, naturally manifesting those things into my life. And that's how I teach manifestation. It's not this thing of, okay, you need to keep up with 17 different rituals every single day and it's going to take you 3 hours and so on and so forth in order for you to manifest these things that you want into your life. And if somebody's teaching it to you that way, please run in the opposite direction, because manifestation is one of the most innate things that we do. We are manifesting every single day, whether you are aware of it or not. But where this intentional piece comes into it, and why I always call it intentional manifestation, is because bringing that level of intention to the table, bringing it to the forefront of your mind, bringing it to your consciousness, is then what allows you to check in with yourself, shift your energy, get into alignment, and truly align yourself with the vibration of the things that you're wanting in your life. It gets to be this natural, easy flowing thing that you are just doing, and not even doing, but being on a day-to-day basis. By being, you get to manifest. That's what happens when you are so deeply integrated into the work of intentional manifestation. Because when you're doing this, what I want you to think about is, if you are currently in the place that you haven't really done the inner work yet, or you're feeling stuck, you're feeling stagnant, you don't know how to move forward, that vibration is very different than the vibration of that higher version of yourself. The one who already has it, is doing it, can be it. And that shift in vibration can actually be quite simple. By identifying who this version of you is, so how does she walk? How does she talk? How does she show up for life? What are the behaviors and the habits that she embodies on a day-to-day basis? How does she feel about herself, about money, about the world, about relationships? Identifying who that version of yourself is, and slowly but surely starting to bridge the gap between where you are right now and being that version of yourself. That is how you raise your vibration. So from wherever your vibration is right now, raising that vibration up. And because you're then just naturally being in that vibration, one, you aren't having to do all of these tools and tricks and manifestation methods to try and raise your vibration. It's just already naturally higher. And two, because you're living in that vibration, you start to attract greater, more abundant things into your life. And like I said, one of the coolest things, if not the coolest thing that I've seen over the past 4 years since starting my intentional manifestation journey, is the fact that this doesn't only work in my life, but it works in the lives of all of the women that I have worked with. It has been so cool to see that somebody who walks in, who feels like she knows nothing about manifestation, then walks out of my program manifesting a dream house or the dream car or an upgrade in their business, more clients, more money, more abundance, more love in their partnership, or a new relationship that is so fulfilling to them. That is the coolest fucking thing ever. Because I think that a lot of the times we can look at people on social media and say, oh yeah, well, it works for her, but I don't think it will work for me. Because the truth is that if I can do this, if little old Kat Kozad from Cowtown, Colorado can do this, you can do this too. I'm no one special. I'm not some superhero who has superpowers that you do not have. You have the same exact power inside of yourself, and learning how to tap into that power and use it will change your life forever. So let my story of where I was 4 years ago versus where I am now be inspiration to you of what can be possible in your life. I'm a mirror to you. All of the things that you either see in me within yourself, or the things that you admire that I have done, those are the same things that you are capable of. We can only see what is available to us. So I am a mirror to you. I'm a vision of what you are capable of creating in your life. And if you want to learn how to do this in your life, I highly suggest that you put yourself on the wait list for the Abundant AF Babe Academy. And for anybody who is new here, the Abundant AF Babe Academy is my signature online manifestation program that has been specifically designed to help you manifest more money, fulfillment, freedom, and abundance in your life without constantly having to work so damn hard for it. And everything that I was just talking about with becoming the vibrational match for your manifestations, becoming the embodiment of your manifestations, and just naturally integrating this process into your life is exactly what I teach you inside of the Abundant AF Babe Academy. I've now had the honor of walking almost 350 women through this process over the past 3.5 years. And we are actually coming up on the 3-year anniversary of the Abundant AF Babe Academy at the beginning of October. So with that being said, enrollment for the Abundant AF Babe Academy is going to be opening in October for the 3rd year anniversary. And this is going to be your last opportunity to join the Abundant AF Babe Academy for the remainder of the year and well into 2024, which is so weird to say because it's like, whoa, are we there yet? And it's like, yeah, we're getting really, really close. So this is the perfect time to join the Abundant AF Babe Academy and to put yourself on the wait list so that you can snag one of the spots when enrollment opens, because those spots fill up quickly. And I can promise you this program will change your life, just like me going on this journey and investing in coaches and investing myself has completely changed my life. So the link to get on the wait list is down below in the show notes. And with that being said, that's it, guys. That is the journey. That has been the story over the past 4 years. And of course, y'all have heard lots of bits and pieces since then and what is coming to and what has come since then. But I truly just believe that once you start on this intentional manifestation journey, it just gets better and better. I literally have tattooed on my arm, and I'm looking at it right now. The better it gets, the better it gets. And what this means to me is that once things get better for you, once you make that intentional decision to better your life, it can only get better and better from that point. And that is exactly what the Abundant AF Babe Academy will help you do. That's exactly what I can help you do in my coaching container. And that is what I want to help you do, because I know what it's like to be in the place that it feels like it's hard and that things aren't going to get better. I promise you they will. Let somebody guide you. Let somebody lead you, because that helps you get to where you want to be with so much more speed. So that is all that I have for you on today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. But one last time, if you are interested in joining the Abundant AF Babe Academy, make sure to put yourself on the wait list by clicking the link down below in the show notes. And I will chat with you on the next podcast episode.